Hello, Namaskaram. Uh, Today, Jayaprakash Narayan's death anniversary. He he take lead to save the democracy when there was an authoritarian regime. Now we are in a more dangerous situation. A semi-fascist organization is uh, actually ruling in our country, and our democracy is in the stranglehold of that semi-fascist organization. But apart from that, we have some basic weaknesses also. Many factors are there to reform in the electoral process of India. Several things. For example, the corporate money pumped in the elections, black money as well as white money. Corporates are pumping huge amounts in the Indian elections. Now it is at the same time, there are several factors, but one of the factors, there shall be a immediate legal uh, reform, that is proportional representation of the parties. We had experiences in India that some party gets not even 50% of the share of votes, popular votes, casted, but they could get uh, more than 60% of the seats in the parliament and assembly. In 2014, BJP got only 31% of vote. In 2019, BJP got 34 uh, percentage of the popular votes casted. But now they are holding a large number of parliament seats. So in this juncture, Samajwadi Jan Parishad also campaigning for a reform, electoral process reform, uh, by changing to proportional representation. Initially, for long back, Germany has the provision for this proportional representation. Now, various countries are changing to proportional representation system. So, in India, for more meaningful democracy or improving the democracy, this is a higher dire need. So Chandrabhushanji is actually studied deeply and an expert in that topic. He is the national treasurer of Samajwadi Jan Parishad. He will speak on the topic improving India's imperfect democracy through proportional representation on this in this Facebook Live program. Adate kutra? Facebook Live program. Initially, he will speak in English. He will speak in English, and later on, he will speak in Hindi. Half an hour, he will speak about the topic in English first, and thereafter in Hindi. So kindly
No,
start,
actually,
Chandrabhushan ji.
today it will be only English. Uh, maybe
Okay,
about
okay,
40
okay.
minutes. 40 minutes.
Ah, okay. It is fine. Uh, Today we will take 40 minutes for the presentation, and it will be in the medium of English. So we are welcoming Dr. Chandrabhushan Chowdhury. He joined Socialist movement since his student time. He is most welcome to Chandrabhushan ji. You please start.
Dear friends and comrades, namaskaram to everybody. I had the option of speaking in English or Hindi, and I was told that there may be maybe participants from different states who understand Hindi. So for the day, for today only, I decided to give my talk completely in English only. At a different opportune time, I can talk in Hindi also. I love talking in Hindi. I can speak in two languages fluently. So today it will be in English only. I hope you pardon me for that. Today, 8th October, is the death anniversary day of India's great leader, Jayaprakash Narayan. All of us have fondly called him JP. I just want to mention a few sentences about him. As you know, he was the famous revolutionary socialist leader in pre-independence India. There are a lot of stories of braveries of him. But after independence, after the first Lok Sabha election, he got disenchanted and he joined Sarvodaya and Bhudan movement. He left active politics for quite some time. But when in the early 70s, he found that the country is moving towards dictatorship of Mrs. Indira Gandhi, and he felt the need. So he joined agitational politics once again and created that big storm, a political storm, which we call JP movement, or some people call Bihar movement. And you know the story of those movements and how it ended in a emergency and how many people went to jail. And in 1977, we had uh, another election in which Mrs. Gandhi was removed and Janata Party took over. Uh, JP, after 1977 elections, he realized the shortcomings of Indian electoral systems. He found that this electoral system is risky, can lead to dictatorship, can lead to all kinds of deformation in our political system. So he appointed a committee, he constituted a committee which was led by Justice V.M. Tarkunde, the famous judge, for electoral reforms in India. Justice Tarkunde his committee gave its opinion on several aspects of electoral reforms. And one of the principal suggestions of Justice Tarkunde's committee was that India should change over to proportional representation. So that is the link between JP and proportional representation. JP had a very short time to live after that, and he could not follow it up. He died soon after, as all of us know. And somehow that issue has been left out and has not been taken well by people after him. Samajwadi Jan Parishad, our political party, has taken a resolution that we support bringing in proportional representation in India, and we are working forward on that. In short, I'll just tell you the systems, electoral systems, and the governmental system that exist in the world. There was monarchy. There is still some kind of symbolic monarchy right now. There have been civilian dictatorships. There have been military dictatorships. And as at outset, all Democrats reject all that. Then we have the parliamentary system of democracy. Just before that, I'll say that we have presidential systems also, and several of the countries are following presidential system where a single person is directly elected by all voters, people at large, and he is the chief of the executive, and he has enormous powers. But now, slowly, the world has realized that that system is also quite defective. That system doesn't work well, and it can lead to dictatorship. It can lead to all kinds of vulgarizations of the system. So that's also not in favor. Then comes the parliamentary system, and parliamentary system has several forms. We have inherited the, the so-called Westminster system of the British, which was a very praised system at that time, at the time of our independence. And since we were a British colony, all our intellectuals were educated in the British system. They liked it. So our Constituent Assembly adopted it. Although I would like to mention that our Constituent Assembly also had discussed the possibility of proportional representation. But India had gone through terrible communal rights, division of the country, partition of the country. And because of that, I think people were afraid and they did not go further on this system. In the parliamentary system itself, we have now proportional representation. It simply means that the constituent house, that is Lok Sabha, or some parliament, or some Sansad, or state assembly, or maybe a general assembly of a Jila Parishad, or a general assembly of a students' union, or general assembly of a block Prakhanda Samiti. Mm, This assembly will be always proportional to the number of votes that people have given to that a particular party. In this system, you must have a party. Without a party, the system would not work. And the votes are given to parties. Parties have to manage their internal affairs and bring up candidates in a list. Uh, Today, we'll restrict our talk to proportional representation only. Just in passing, I will tell you that 89 countries have already adopted proportional representation, one after other, in the last 70 years. They have changed their erstwhile parliamentary system or presidential system or monarchy or some other system. Some of the countries had become independent after a long time of slavery. So soon after independence, in the very first constitution itself, they adopted proportional representation. In India, we have not yet done that. Now, I'll go for some data, some examples to show you, to understand how bad this system is and how it amounts to a loot of public votes, a theft of public votes, a wastage of public votes going down the drain, and uh, uh, completely disproportional house compared to the way people of the country think or people of the country are organized in different ideologies. We'll take one or two cases. The first case we'll take is the Lok Sabha election of 2019, 2019. Mr. Joshi has already mentioned a little bit about that. We'll go into a little detail. In that election, the total registered number of voters in the country were 91 crore. India is a big country. We have a large number of people who are eligible to vote. Out of this 91 crore, around 67%, that is 60 crores of people, 60 crores of people voted and voted with a valid vote. In this election, the Lok Sabha was to be selected for 550 seats, one or two more or less, but for convenience purpose, we'll keep it at 550. Now let's look at the tallies. BJP, the largest single party, got 23 crores of votes out of these 60 crores, which amounts to 37% of the polled votes. Out of this 37%, if it were a proportional system, they were eligible to get 203 number of parliamentary seats. They would have been able to put in 203 MPs, but they got 303 MPs because of the bad system that we have. A full 100 MPs more than what was their due share, what they should have got. Next comes Indian National Congress. They got 12 crore votes, valid votes, which forms about 20% of the 60 crore polled. They deserved, out of this strength of 12 crores, they deserve 110 MP seats in the parliament. But because of the disproportionality in the system, they got only 52 seats, which amounts to only 9.5% of the Lok Sabha. Another party, CPIM, they got 1 crore, 1.8%. They deserve 10 seats. They got only 3 seats. Bahujan Samaj Party, which has a fairly distributed number of supporters in several states of India because their supporters are mostly in Dalit community. They are in MP, they are in Rajasthan, they are in UP, they are in Bihar, they are in several states. So their voters are distributed and they got 2.25 crores of people voting for them, which amounts to 3.7% of the total polled votes. And it entitles them to 20 MP seats in the parliament, in the Lok Sabha. But they got only 10 seats. They lost 10 seats for no reason, that for no fault of theirs, for, for the defect in the system, for nothing else. There is a case of a huge number of, we have a huge number of registered political parties which are not recognized, which are unrecognized parties. All of them put together total, they got 4.7 crores votes in the election, which amounts to 7.8% of the total votes polled. And they deserved 43 seats in the parliament. These are all small parties. And they should have got 43 seats in the parliament, but they got only 10 seats in the parliament. So all that vote, that left out vote, went down the drain. Literally went down the drain. It was nobody's vote. Those people who voted for them were thrown out of the Indian system, completely thrown out of the Indian system. This is how uh, the parliament election worked in 2019. The same parliament election, let us look at in a few states, how the states sent their MPs to Delhi. Take case of Andhra, 2019 Lok Sabha election. YSR Congress got 50% votes in Andhra. They deserved barely 12 or 13 seats in Lok Sabha, but they got 22 seats. They won 22 seats in the elections. A gain of 10 seats for no reason. It was a bonus. You call it a loot, you call it theft, you call it a mistake, you call it whatever. While their opposing party, Telugu Desam Party, got 40% votes. Not too bad. Just 10% less of YSR Congress. They deserved 10 seats in Lok Sabha, but they got only 3 seats. They could send only 3 MPs to Lok Sabha. Tamil Nadu, 2019. DMK got only 33% of votes and they could elect 23 MPs. AIDMK got 19% vote, which is not a mean figure, but they got only 1 Lok Sabha seats. They deserved 5 seats, they got 1. DMK deserved 8 seats, they got 23 seats that Delhi has, and they got 0 seats. They couldn't win a single seat. While in fighting alone, they got 16% votes, 16%. They deserved 6 to 7 seats in the Lok Sabha election and they got 0. They couldn't win a single seat. While Lok Janshakti Party, which is a very small party of Mr. Ramvilas Paswan, they got 8% votes because of being in the coalition, of course. They deserved only 3 seats, but they got 6 seats. Janata Dal United, 22% votes, deserved 9 seats, got 16 seats, 7 seats extra. BJP got 20% votes, deserved 8 seats, and got 18 seats. So this is the skewing, this is the disproportionality the system brings. You call it loot of votes, you call it theft of votes, you call it wastage of votes, you call it whatever. But it's bad for the democracy, it's bad for the country, it's bad for everyone. we'll take two or three examples of state assembly elections. The first glaring example is Delhi assembly election 2015, about 5 years back. Aam Aadmi Party in that election got 54.3% of total votes polled, about half of total votes polled, and they deserved. It is an assembly of 70 people. The strength is 70, so they deserved half of it, approximately half of it, say 35 or maybe 40. But Aam Aadmi Party got 67 seats in an assembly of 70 people for no reason. They didn't deserve it, but they got it. While BJP, which got 32.3% votes in Delhi Assembly election in 2015, got only 3 seats. 32 is one third. One third means something like 22 or 23 seats they should have got, but they got 3 seats. Congress, they had almost 10% votes and they got zero. This is the kind of result it gives. The same Delhi Parliament, the Assembly election, one election previous, that about 2 years back in 2013, Aam Aadmi Party had 30% votes, got 28 seats. Very okay. BJP had 33% votes, got 32 seats. Indian National Congress had 25% votes, got only 8, little less than what they got. But 2 years later, in the same system, in the same state, you see how dramatically the scores change. The power structure changes. Let's take an example of West Bengal, very interesting example. 2016 election, a state assembly election in 2016. All India Trinamool Congress got 45% votes, 44.9, say 45. This is an assembly of 295 MLAs, 294 MLAs to be precise. And Trinamool Congress, by that proportion, should have. अरे अभी फोन मत करो भाई, हम काम कर रहे हैं, तुम जनरेटर देखो. Hello, excuse me for the interruption. West Bengal, I was talking about. Trinamool Congress in 2016, they deserved 132 seats, but they got 211 to 1. Majority. In the Congress, coalition possibly, they got 12.25% votes. They deserved 36 seats and they got 44, more than what they deserved. While CPIM, they got almost 20% votes in the same election. They deserved 59 seats in the assembly and they got only 26 seats in the assembly. BJP, 10% votes, deserved 29, got 3 seats. These are the kind of funny, silly results that this system gives us. In the same assembly, 10 back in 2006, the whole picture got reversed. The kind of disproportion that it can build. That time, Trinamool Congress had 26.6% votes, deserving 78 seats, but they got only 33 seats. Abject minority. They cannot do anything in the assembly, although they have 1/4 of the votes. And CPIM, which had only 37% votes, not very high, they deserved 108 seats in the assembly, and they got 179 seats state assembly. इसमें तो नहीं. Hello. We were tackling the gadget. Can you hear me? Admin, can you hear me? If you can't hear me, please tell me. This is the kind of disproportion it brings. In one election, It gives an absolute majority, a road roller kind of majority to one party. In another election, a few years later, the party has popular votes in the similar ratio, very similar ratio, but it is completely thrown out of of the field and out of the field for 5 years. 5 years they have no voice, they cannot do anything. This is the kind of terrible thing that happens in this election system. I'll go to a slightly different topic. I'll talk about some minorities. Proportional होस्ट कर रहा है. हेलो हेलो can you see me and hear me? I'm extremely sorry. Uh, there was a network problem on my side. Uh, just a second. I seem to be live now. I seem to be live now. दिखाई दे रहा है क्या? शुरू करें? शुरू करें? Hello, hello. I apologize for the break. There was some problem in my internet system. Uh, I'll go on the theme now. I was talking about the status of minorities in the present system, which is called the first past the post. Uh, I should have said this earlier. I'll explain it later. The present parliamentary system that we have is technically called first past the post. First past the post means when you have a set of runners, a 100-meter run or a 400-meter run or that kind of competition. We have a winning post. You have two poles at the end of the run, at the end of the field, where you tie a thread between two posts, and the people who are running, they one of them will be the first, will be ahead of all others, and will touch the thread tied to the post. So he has touched the post, and he's the winner. But all the nine others that were in the run, they were only half a second less than that. They are only one third of a second less than that. But they are all thrown out. They are nowhere in the final results. That is what happens in our present democratic electoral system. That's why it is called first past the post. Another term given to this our present election system is winner takes all. The winner of the election, winner in the race, winner in the game, takes everything. Everything is his. But uh, all others, they were slightly less than him. They were as capable as him. They are left out of the system. Now, correct that, which gives weightage to everybody who participated. It gives weightage to all those who had some strength in the elections. I was taking the case of religious minorities in India. Muslims, as I was telling, constitute about 14% of our population. And this 14% entitles them to 77 MPs in Lok Sabha at any time. But their presence is much, much, much less. In 2019 election, 2019, the number of Muslim MPs in the parliament uh, is 29, 29. And in all previous Lok Sabhas, the tally has been very similar. 214, 23, 2009, 28, then 34, then 31. There was one election where their numbers were fairly high. It was 49 numbers. And the worst was in 1952, the first election after independence. And that time, there were only 11 Muslim MPs in the parliament. Of course, we had gone through the partition of the country, we had gone through those terrible violent riots, and the psychology of the country was different, was bad. So this was one of the reasons for that. But the main reason that Muslims don't get their place in the parliament is because we have first past the post, we have winner takes all system running in this country. Take a case of women. Women constitute half the population. Out of a Lok Sabha of 550 people, the number of MPs should be 275 women at any time. People can argue in many ways. People can say that they are not organized, they are not uh, politically conscious, they are not in the mainstream, so on and so forth. But if not 275, there should be 200 of them visible there. There should be 150 of them visible there. But nothing of that sort. In the highest number of women MPs that we had in Indian Lok Sabha is in the current parliament. 2019, where we have 78 women MPs. And in previous Lok Sabhas, we had 62, we had 59, we have 49, we had 42, we have 28. And in the first Lok Sabha, it was only 22, in the same case as Muslims. Third example, which is a different example, is the case of Sikhs. Sikhs in India constitute 1.17% of Indian population. But the difference is that most of them are concentrated in one state, that is Punjab. And they vote for their own parties, be it Congress, be it Akali Dal. So they get represented. They get their people sent to parliament. 1.17% Sikhs, they deserve at any time, if we go by numerical strength, they at any time deserve about 9 MPs in Indian Lok Sabha. But in our current Lok Sabha, there are 13 Sikhs MPs. They are more than represented, coming from different parties. They don't come from a single party, they come from different parties. This is a very important issue. This is a very important issue that you have to note. In case of the Sikhs representation in Lok Sabha, in case of the Trinamool Congress representation in Lok Sabha, that the parties, the opinions, the ideologies that are concentrated in a region, in a regional area, they can get their seats proportional to their people, proportional to their support, and at times more than that. I am raising this point because one of the defects of first past the post system is that it gives rise to regionalism. It is a very centrifugal situation. It always promotes regional forces and it demotes such forces like socialism, like communism, like even Hindu ideology, like peasants and workers that are uniformly distributed all over the country. It discourages those forces, the uniting forces, the all India, pan India forces, to come to power, to come to the house in the parliament. Uh, so we have seen the defects, and I'll again quickly go through the defects. One of the example that I would like to give you is a case of farmers. We know farmers are in huge numbers. In India, you could put them at 50%, you could put them at 60%, at least 50%. But as a force, as an organized group, as a farmers peasants party, they are they are never represented. They are never represented in the parliament as farmers, and nobody who will try to make a farmers party will be able to win the election all over the country, because in every constituency they will get sizable votes. They may get 30% votes, they may get 40% votes, but they will be defeated in every constituency. They will not reach the parliament ever. Unorganized workers. Recently, after this corona epidemic and the movement of people and the tragedies that we have seen in Bombay or Delhi and on the roads of India, that unorganized workers are a huge force in India. Their numbers are enormous, and they are not recognized, they are not present, they are not available in the Lok Sabha, they have no strength. Although their numbers are huge, at any time we should have 10% of the parliament, 15% of the parliament coming from the parties that support or that are composed of unorganized workers. The case of women we have already discussed. Case of religious minorities we have already discussed. We have the case of such ideologically based parties which follow an ideology, are uniformly distributed all over the country. They lose everywhere because they'll get 10% vote here, 15% vote there, 5% vote here, maybe 20% vote there. But they are defeated in every constituency, and not one of their members, not one of their leaders is able to reach the parliament. And not reaching the parliament is no joke. They are thrown out for full 5 years from the political scene of the country. And if you are banished for 5 years, well, maybe you are banished for a lifetime in politics. So, uh, and then we discussed the issue of rise of regionalism because of first past the post. There are in Europe and in some other countries, if you see their political structure, you find that they have climate supporters party, climate change consensus parties, and the climate they get seats. Green Party in Germany always gets 5 to 7 to 8% seats, and when they get 5 to 8 to 7% seats in the parliament, they have a strength. They are always having in a bargaining position, and they can force the government to do many things. At times, nobody can make a government without their support. So, when they are present in the parliament, they have won half the race. If you are present in the parliament, even if you are not in government, you are there. Your voice is recorded. You have a place to speak. You have a place to raise your voice. You have to place, you have an opportunity to raise the opinions of the section of people that you have come from, that you represent. So these are the issues, generally speaking, uh, that the present system and the proportional system differ in. We'll take a few examples now. We will take a few cases, we'll take some cases where proportional representation has been implemented. As I told you, that 89 countries of the world have changed over from their old system to the new proportional system over a course of about 70 years. These are large countries, these are small countries, these are medium sized countries, they are left ruled countries, they are right ruled countries, they are countries with huge number of ethnic groups, tribe groups, huge number of languages spoken there. But after they adopted proportional representation for their parliament or Lok Sabha or whatever they call it, people's house, upper house or lower house, they have an absolutely stable house and they have an absolutely stable government. I'll go by a few countries. Time is not much. I'll have to cut short a few things. Uh, some of these countries changed from their older constitution because of popular opinion, because of agitations in the country, because of the political demands of the people uh, in their country to a new system. Some countries started it right at the time of their independence. Uh, most of these countries, majority of these countries, had been slave countries, had been colonies of one European power or other. Like we had Indonesia, which was a Dutch colony, India was a British colony, South Africa was a British. कबाड़ी बंद करिए तो. South Africa was a British colony. There were Belgian colonies in Africa, and so on. So many of these countries adopted the system of their colonial rulers when they became independent. Like we adopted the system of the British when we became independent, and Indonesia adopted the system of the Dutch country, of the Netherlands, because Netherlands had a proportional representation for a very long time. When Indonesia became independent, they were used to those Dutch system because they were the Dutch colony. They adopted proportional representation right in the beginning. So there are both kind of examples, both kind of countries which at different times adopted this system. Let's go country by country. The first country I will take as an example is Indonesia. Indonesia is a very poor country, Like India, it has several ethnic groups, many ethnic groups. It uh, has several languages also. Many people don't know, but Indonesia has several languages. And it's a huge country of 27 crore people. 27 crore people. They have a proportional representation system. Before I go to country by country, I would drop a few words about the type of systems that proportional representation is having. There are generally three types, subdivisions of proportional representation, which finally, anyway, lead you to a proportionality. The first system is called party list system. In party list system, uh, every party before uh, before the election takes place, it gives a list of the potential MPs that they will put in the parliament, in the Lok Sabha or whatever, in a state assembly, in Jila Parishad, in Prakhand Samiti, wherever. Uh, this is called a party list. All the parties submit a list before the election, and when the election takes place, all the votes all over the country are counted, they are totaled, they are added up, and finally we know for the country or for the district or for the state who got how many votes, who got what percentage of votes. And if a party got 20% votes in a house of 500 people, so they deserve 100 seats. In their list that they have submitted to the election commission, the top 100 people are taken out and they are made MPs. This is called a party list system. Many countries are following party list system. Then there is another system called MMP, mixed member proportional representation, which is a very popular system for large countries. Germany is a glaring example. It's a very famous example. Anybody who wants to study this should study the case of Germany. Uh, in the mixed member system, we hold elections the way we are holding now. The country is divided into certain number of constituencies. Like if we have 550 seats in the parliament, the country will be divided in 275 Lok Sabha seats, and the elections will be held in the same way that are held right now. There will be candidates coming up from different parties, and the candidate who has the maximum number of votes will win the election. He might be not be having 50% votes. He might be having less than 50%, like it is happening right now. But in the same election, there are two ballot boxes. One ballot box is for the candidates, as I told you, and the second ballot box in the same room is kept for a party. Party, there people vote for a party of their choice. Now, these party votes are taken from all over the country or all over the state or all over the district, and they are added up. And finally, when it is added up, you find that a particular party like BJP, they have been able to win 150 seats from direct election, but they deserve 50 more seats because the proportion of votes that they have gives them 200 seats. So from their list, that the list that they have submitted, you take 50 MPs and add to their MP list. These 50 people become MPs for BJP out of their party list. This is called mixed member proportional system. And finally, the target is that the house must be constituted exactly in the same proportion in which the people are constituted. People are divided under different parties, they are divided under ideologies, and those ideologies, those parties must be represented in the Lok Sabha exactly in the same proportion So they are made up from the list that they have submitted. There is a third variation also, something called STV, single transferable vote, which is a very good system. It gives preferences to every voter, gives preferences to different candidates, and these preferences are taken one after other. Some are rejected, some are taken. It's a little complicated system. I'll not go into explaining it. It is generally used for smaller bodies. I am told that Jharkhand Lawyers Council, the Lawyers Council, the Jharkhand Bar Council, the Bar Council elections are held through STV, single transferable votes. STV would be applicable in places where you have a lesser number of electors, voters, and you have somewhat educated voters who can fill in a complicated ballot form and submit it. In huge countries all over the country, it's difficult to implement that. So we'll not go into the details. Now, I was talking about countries. I talked about Indonesia. Then we go to Germany. Germany is a country of 8 crores, not a small country. And it has a mixed member proportional system, as I told you. And they have a cutoff line. They have a cutoff point of 5%. Any party that gets less than 5% will not get represented in the parliament. Some countries have 5%, some countries have 2%. Very big countries will have 1%, some might have even less than 1%, so that no votes are wasted. If you when you give a cutoff, all the votes that are less than the cutoff are thrown into the drain, are thrown into the garbage bin. They are not going to Lok Sabha to elect anybody, which is bad, which is definitely bad. So cutoffs are a matter of detail. We'll go into later. One very big example, one very, very important example is the example of European Union. As you know, so many countries have joined to form a union. And then that union, all the countries send MPs to European Parliament. It's a separate parliament. It's not a parliament of the country. Uh, it's a parliament of European Union, which is for 40 crore people. It's not a small number. All the European countries add up to a population of 40 crores. These 40 crore people elect their parliament, and they elect their parliament through proportional representation. There is a detail in that. I'll not go into the detail, but this is a very glaring example and very important example, which all of it, please go through when you have time. We have South Africa. South Africa, as you know, won its independence from apartheid, and then they have a democracy in that country. In that democracy, they have a party list system. South Africa is a fairly large country, a country of 6 crores of people, has so many tribes, has so many languages. The, there are divisive forces in the country, and they have a system of party list, and their cutoff is so low that any party which can get one seat in the Lok Sabha, in their parliament, is also taken in, is not left out, is not thrown out in the garbage. Turkey. Turkey is a country of 8 crores. It has a party list, but their cutoff is 10%, which is very bad because such parties, we got 8% of votes, which are important parties, they get left out. Near home, many of us might not be knowing, we should have been knowing, we have Sri Lanka. You know, Sri Lanka has a population of 2 crores, and the Sri Lankan parliament is elected through proportional representation. Very close to us. They have done it for years, for decades. But unfortunately, Indians have missed to see that example, a very, very important example. That was south of us. Let's go to north of us. North of us, we have Nepal, very poor country, so-called underdeveloped country. The country has gone through terrible strifes, terrible fights, internal divisions, monarchy, a military takeover. They went through a lot of pains. But in 2015, 5 years back, their constituent assembly finally could make a constitution, and that constitution is based on proportional representation. And this proportional representation is the mixed member parliament that I had explained already, that Germany has, that many other countries have. And Nepal is a very stable, very peaceful country after they have adopted proportional representation for their parliament. They are Madhesis, they are Tarai people, they are hill people, the Gurkhas. All of them have proper representation in the parliament, and the country is peaceful and is progressing. Brazil, a fairly large country of 20 crore, 22 crores of people. Their house, although they have a presidential system also, but their parliament, their house is elected through proportional representation through a party list system. Their neighboring country, Argentina, fairly large, about 4 5 crores of people, they also have a proportional representation house that is through a party list. Australia, the developed country, 2.5 crore people, they have an upper house called Senate. Senate elects its member through STV. This is one of the very few examples in the world where a huge population votes through STV. And this is a proportional system, and Australian Senate is constituted through proportional system. Austria, another European country neighboring Germany, 1 crore people, they have a party list system. Belgium, 1.2 crore people, they have a party list system. As you might be knowing, Belgium has three principal languages. They had huge infights in the country. The one language is Flemish, one language is French, and the third language is something else. And they have been fighting with each other for a long time. But since they adopted proportional representation, the country is peaceful. It gives due place to speakers of every language. They give power to all sections of population, and the country is doing well. Netherlands, 1.7 crore people, they have proportional representation party list. Spain, 4.7 crores, they have party list. Taiwan, near here in Asia, somewhat small country, not too small, it's 2.5 crore people, and they have a mixed member proportional system. Very stable country, progressing very fast. They have absolutely stable situation in spite of the arrogance of mainland China towards them, but they are holding their ground. Hong Kong, at present, 75 lakh people, and they have proportional representation. Now, we have seen some of the examples. We can go on and on. If you go to Wikipedia, if you go to some Google search, you will find the name of all those 89 countries which have adopted proportional representation, and they are doing reasonably well. In India, I'll give you a hint, something that you may not be knowing, that some of our political parties have taken resolution in their general body and supported proportional representation for Indian Parliament. First name that I give is CPIM and CPI. Long time back, they took a resolution that they support proportional representation. Of course, in the parliament election, in the state assembly election, they cannot have proportional representation because it is decided by so many other people. But the unfortunate thing is, which I mentioned to our Kerala friends, that CPIM rules Kerala. CPIM has all the powers to frame rules, to make electoral systems for their lower bodies like district councils, Jila Parishad, like their Prakhand Samitis, like their Gram Panchayat, but they have not done anything to implement proportional representation in the places where they are empowered to do it. Very unfortunate. I call it a double speak. I call it hypocrisy, and it's very unfortunate. They should not have passed a resolution just for passing a resolution. DMK. DMK has taken a resolution in its party general body that they support proportional representation. But whenever they ruled Tamil Nadu, they did not do anything in the lower bodies where the 74th, 75th Amendment gives the state government all the powers to make electoral rules in local bodies that is under them, that is in their territory. The DMK didn't do that. They should have done that. If they would have done that, like Kerala example, like DMK example, like CPM when it ruled West Bengal, then there would have been a lot of thinking in the country about this new system and changing over to this new system. We unfortunately lost a big opportunity because of the mistake of this party. Akali Dal, of all parties, Akali Dal has taken a resolution that they support proportional representation, and uh, they didn't do anything in their own state. I'll mention a few names, people who have been in support of this system. You remember the name of Mr. J.M. Lingdo, who was the Chief Election Commissioner of India. And at one time, after his retirement, even before his retirement, he was very vocal about implementing proportional representation in India. But he has not been very active after retirement. And he didn't follow it up through organizational efforts and through political efforts. You may be knowing the name of another Jayaprakash Narayan. I hope you might have heard his name. He is a man who was an IS officer in Andhra Pradesh government. He's from Andhra Pradesh, and he resigned his IS job and took to politics. He had a party also. He has a party, still has a party. Now, I do not know whether he's based in Telangana or whether he's based in Andhra Pradesh, but he had been talking strongly and very vocally about bringing in proportional representation in the country. So, isolated individuals, there are many. Smaller parties like my some party, Samajwadi Jan Parishad, we have taken resolution in favor of this proportional representation. But this is something that has to be implemented by people in the country at large. And all of us have to think of ways and means of how to popularize this idea, how to convince the people of India through a big agitation, through a big movement, that we must change over to a more just system from the current unjust system that we are suffering from. And we should change over to proportional representation as fast as we can. I have taken more time than I had asked for. There have been some technical errors on my side also. I apologize for that. There were interruptions. I do not know how many people left the meeting because of those interruptions, but I thank you all for a very patient hearing and for hearing me on a topic which is not a popular topic, which is not the standard political discussion that takes place in the country, what Yogi is doing or what Jayalalitha was doing or what Mamta Dedi is doing. So I stop at this point, and I thank Mr. Joshi to have organized this technical part of this discussion, and our Kerala friends who helped him in that, and all those who are with me today, and some more in future who will hear my talk through Facebook Live of the site called Samajwadi Jan Parishad in future. Thank you all. Thank you very much. I hand over to Mr. Joshi now. Mr. Joshi, Mr. Joshi, can you hear me? Mr. Joshi, I've handed over the mic to you. Yeah, I can see a window for you, but the face is not yet coming. I hope your network is working. Hello? Hello? Hello. Can I write something here? Hello. Hello.